Hello and welcome to Light Warrior Radio. My name is Dr. Karen Kan. I'm the #1 best-selling author of Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And if you are a sensitive soul, and that's about 33% of the human population, would love to gift you my Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, and you can get that at sensitivesoulguide.com absolutely for free. Now, today I have with me Adele Good. She is a friend of mine, and I met her through my community and through LifeWave. We were in it together, although we're in different teams. And she was mentioning about these sacred sites. And I thought, wow, she must travel a lot. And go figure, absolutely. That's kind of her shtick. And I'm one of those people that have aspirations of traveling to sacred sites, but I'm not much of a world traveler, and I'm the kind of person that needs somebody to hold my hand and go here, arrange everything for me, the taxi, everything like that, because I'm just kind of like this little child going, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to spend the money, anyway. So I was like, ooh, I need to make friends with Adele. She's gonna be my go-to gal for future sacred site traveling. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a sacred site adventurer and creator of the Joy Codes. And of course, she's my guest today. And we're going to be talking about sacred sites and the energy of sacred sites and how so many are hidden from plain sight. And they are closer than we think they are. She told me about some that I had no idea existed. So that's super exciting for today. So Adele, after being raised in a family of 4 generations of medical doctors, she chose to follow a different healing path and spent years studying natural healing all over the world. She reversed many of her own health issues as she naturally released over 100 pounds, got off all her medication, has not even had an aspirin since 2006, which is amazing. Adele totally transformed her own unhealthy body, became a health coach, professional speaker, and eventually a sacred site adventurer. In 2014, Adele received a clear message to leave the United States and travel full-time. So many of us aspire to that, not me specifically, but a lot of people that I've talked to. So within 3 months, she had sold everything and put in boxes into a 5 by 5 foot storage unit and moved to Eastern Europe. She began a 9-year journey of exploring sacred sites on 5 continents, studying natural healing, volunteering with various local communities, and becoming a self-made archaeological researcher. During her travels while in Bolivia, Adele found a special sacred stone which led her to the creation of the Joy Codes, a culmination of her life's work which combines body, mind, spirit, heart, and community. She's learned to listen to these messages she hears from soul guidance to confirm her actions. She's has let it lead her with full trust and expectations of miracles. She's explored hidden sites, sacred sites all over Europe, South America, Southeast Asia, Africa, US, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Canada, and put many puzzle pieces together. She loves to guide small groups and share her discoveries, and currently she's in the Caribbean. So welcome, Adele. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. It's wonderful to be here. We've been talking about this for a while, and I'm just thrilled that you've invited me, and now we get to do it. And I'm going to hopefully wow you a few times with some things you don't know yet.
Oh, I'm sure you already wowed me already. And there's so many people that are sensitive souls who are very, highly spiritual and looking for community and know about sacred sites and maybe have aspirations to visit sacred sites, but all we know is like, Tulum, there's some Mayan ruins somewhere, and there's the Egypt, but we don't really know like what's the big what first of all about it. And some of these places possibly have even been, damaged and ruined, and we feel like we've kind of lost our chance to go there. But you're here to tell us, hey, no worries. There's a lot more that we don't know. So I'll let you take it over, share a little bit more about, something about yourself if you'd like to share. Yeah, I know you have a fantastic presentation for us today. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. Well, this has been a journey. It's probably been a lifelong journey. My family was pretty adventurous. And when I was 13, we drove from Ohio to Alaska on the Alaskan Highway in the 60s. So that was kind of unusual. And we went up to the Arctic Circle, and we flew up there. You don't drive up there. But and then the next year we drove from Ohio to Mexico, all the way to Acapulco, which you didn't do that in the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
It's crazy. So very adventurous parents, and my siblings and I all love to travel, and we have found ways to make that work, even though financially sometimes it's kind of crazy, and it still happens. So a lot of my journey has been based on faith and trust and just expecting things to work out. I had a lovely company. All kinds of things in my life were fabulous in 2014 when I got this message to travel. And I had been traveling quite a bit. I'd go to a place and I'd have to come back to the States to pay my bills. And I thought, what's wrong with this picture? I just want to. So I ended up, literally, that's when I was in the islands with some friends and heard a message in my right ear, and it was to leave the United States. Wow. And that was the end of March 2014, and the end of May, I had gotten rid of everything. So in my car, everything was, spoken for. If I kept the car till I left, but I had sold it. And then went and said goodbye to my mom, who just turned 100, and she was in her 90s then. And I'll just kind of wrap things up in the United States, rented that little 5x5 foot storage unit, which is really— I
can't believe you fit everything in there. I mean, you really sold a lot.
I really sold or gave away a lot. Fortunately, both my sons had finished college and started their jobs, and they had saved their money and bought houses the same month of May 2014 that I was getting out of my condo where I left. I was moving things out, so they took a lot of the furniture and the kitchen stuff.
Good.
That was perfect. And then, I said goodbye, and I moved to Eastern Europe to work and volunteer on the Bosnian pyramids. So I'm 67 now. So I was 58, probably in that range. And how many women at that stage of life just go? It was crazy.
So true. I mean, that's very inspirational, because some people think, oh, that's for young people. And no, because a lot of times when we're young, we have these, I got to do this, I got to do the career, I got to do this, I got to get the house, got to get the wife, got to get the husband, got to get, the house and the picket fence and the whole bit. And you literally are showing us, okay, been there, done that, letting it all go, and just pure faith and trust, and it's worked out for you. So that's so inspirational. Wow.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And I should probably add, because people go, how can you afford to do this? Because I don't know, to be honest. And how many languages do you speak? I speak one, English. I speak high school Spanish. I've traveled extensively in South America. Yeah, exactly. And when I lived in Brazil quite a bit, and I took Portuguese lessons. Well, Portuguese, if you know just a little Spanish and you take Portuguese, you don't know anything. It totally, for me, it wiped it all out. So I speak English. And when I lived in Bosnia and Montenegro and Bali and all over Thailand, I don't speak any of those languages. French, you can't learn French in a few months. It just doesn't work that way. So I just gave up the guilt and decided it was okay. And smiles go a long way. I do hello, goodbye, thank you, and maybe how much.
Do you do a lot of hand speaking? A lot
of hand stuff, yes. I rarely Google Translate. I try not to do that because it takes so long, and I don't care about the pronunciation and it doesn't have to be perfect. Most people are just thrilled to get to speak English or to do the signal back. Yeah, okay. I really, in all these years, 9 straight years, and even before that, but I've never really had a situation. One time in Mexico, I was in the middle of Chiapas, which is way south. I had driven down there and I had stayed in a little place, and I ordered breakfast, and I eat meat, but not a lot of it, but I don't eat certain meats. And one of the meats I didn't know, I ordered mushroom, an omelet mushroom omelet. And the person next to me heard me say vegetariano, because I say that so they don't put any hidden sausages or things in it. And I ordered something that sounded like, it wasn't champignons, but it looked like this French word for mushroom, which is something like champignons.
Right.
It was grasshopper.
Oh no! That's true. The words are very similar. That's right. That's
So
right.
grateful that whoever it was next to me heard me say and I'm alone, people are so
Right,
nice.
right.
He just heard me say vegetarian or whatever. I said my version of that word. And I'm not a vegetarian, but I don't eat a lot of meat. I sure didn't want to eat grasshoppers for breakfast in my omelet.
So she interrupted your order?
Yes, yes. He
Okay.
literally said, ma'am, that's actually grasshopper you just ordered. And I heard you say vegetarian. So little angels, I call it the angels
Aw.
along the way. I've met more
Yeah.
angels that, and so what if I'd eaten grasshoppers? It's not that big a deal, but it's just these beautiful people that want to help. And
Mm.
I think, Dr. Karen, that I have really found, and being, as I said, a senior, so to speak, traveling alone is a totally, totally different experience than traveling with somebody.
Yeah.
Because you're not in a conversation constantly with someone else where you're including a third person if you visit with someone. You're by yourself. And so the smile goes a long way. Sometimes I just want to be. I don't talk on planes. I'm pretty introspective on a flight. But there's times where I do want to talk to people. And you learn little tricks. Like one of mine is I stay in an Airbnb that speaks English my first night in a foreign country. Or a hotel, but it depends. I'm thinking back to Bangkok. I don't like big cities, but I knew when I got to Thailand the first time, I really had to find a place. So I find a place. The gentleman who owned it had gone to Duke University. So I thought, okay, he's going to speak English. So, that really helps. Then I can talk to him and say, where next? I want to do this and this. So I kind of I've learned some tricks, so to speak. But when you travel with someone, it's totally different. There's a compromise, of course, where you're going, what kind of money you're going to spend. And I can be really adventurous. I've stayed in very, very inexpensive places and had the biggest miracles ever because of that.
Wow, that's beautiful. Well, and I think what's great is having you here is many of us, myself included, have a limited perspective because we haven't done it. That, oh, it's dangerous. It's a scary world out there. You're alone. And what if you don't speak the language? What if you don't understand the money part? Like even just, I know it sounds funny probably coming from, for me to say this, but even going to the thought of going to the World Winter Olympic, Masters Games, where, figure skating, this is what my husband and I had planned, but we decided not to do it, partly because of what's going on in the world. Even just the thought of, I don't know Italian, was partly like, but my friend's like, oh, it'll be fine. I mean, I actually speak, 3.5 languages, but, she's like, oh, it'll be fine. I've just been there. And, but that it's just like that lack of confidence and trust, because I never liked traveling to begin with. I wasn't coming from a family like yours. I like to be told where to go and in terms of traveling, right? Okay, go here, not here, So I think it's so inspirational to hear your story so I can have a little bit more confidence and trust in the universe.
Well, and yes, and I never liked your type of travel. When I'm with a tour, and I do tours every once in a while, I go on a tour, especially I did one in Thailand and Cambodia, and usually they're volunteer type trips. South Africa, the same. But there's something about that limitation. And so when I did South Africa, I went in a week early so that I could hang out and figure things out. And then I stayed 5 more months. I think it was a month on tour. But my thing is I always stay longer so that I can go back to the places. Now, South Africa is kind of big. It's not like you're in a little, simple area, but and then that's when it gets magical because I know where I want to go back to. Usually, in personalities, I'm talkative, you can tell. I want to I love to share and get to know people and get to know their cultures. And so that really has added to it that when I'm alone, I've never felt alone ever. I should share when you were talking about your situation, I thought, oh yeah, when I was in Mexico once, the same trip to Chiapas with the grasshoppers, there was a lot of unrest in Chiapas and I didn't know it. And I was going down, I'd driven from Mexico City to Palenque, rented a car, and I was going down to this waterfall. At this waterfall, I met these 2 couples and they were from Mexico City. And they said, and we're the only 5 people at this waterfall. It's beautiful, Blue Lagoon. And they said, they asked me how I got there because I'm by myself in the middle of nowhere. And I said, oh, I drove from Mexico City. They said, we didn't even drive from Mexico City. We would not drive from Mexico City down here. It's not safe. I'm like, it was a highway the whole way. It didn't seem not safe most of the way. So then they told me there was a lot of unrest in Chiapas at that point, and on the way down. And that basically one of them, it was two couples. I followed them in their car, and then we met at another waterfall, and then they said, where are you going? Because they were going to reroute, and I said, well, I'm going to follow you again. And they didn't like my driving in the mountains, which were like this, and I drive really slow compared to them. So one of the men got in my car and drove. One of the women came over and said, would you let my husband drive your car? And I said, absolutely. And I've never let anyone drive a rental car that it wasn't on the rental car, wasn't signed up for it. Anyway, there were guns. There were machine gun, not machine gun. We had two roadblocks where there were wooden things with nails sticking up.
Oh my gosh.
And you had to pay a toll of 100 pesos to go over it. So I had given the man some money, but I only had 3 20s and a 50. So he gives him 110, and I'm sitting there in the car. He's Mexican. I'm just trying to be as discreet as possible. And they were attorneys. One of them was an attorney. I mean, they were professional, from Mexico, but professionals. And I'm sitting there trying to disappear while the guy with a ski mask and a gun in his arm, a long gun, is taking the money from him. And he gave him 110 pesos, and the guy gave him change. Now, he was just trying to get attention. And it's a whole nother platform, but these people, they come in and they bring them schools and water and different things, and then they don't service them. And so they're just trying to get attention with a lot of the upheaval. And I've seen a lot of that in Peru. But anyway,
they're not really trying to harm people. They're just trying to survive.
Get water, fresh water for their families because it's been brought in, and then they cut it off. I've seen this all over the world. It's awful. So sad. So sad. So anyway, but let's get on to the show, so to speak.
All right. Yeah. So tell us about sacred sites and some of the ones we don't know about, what you've discovered.
Okay. What I'm going to do is actually share a slide presentation I did. And how much time do we have, Dr. Karen?
Well, we can have as long as you have.
Okay. Well, I have way more slides than we have time for.
Yeah, so, while we're doing this, just keep in mind that folks that are listening in on the podcast, there will be a link below where you can actually look at the slides on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. And when the recording is up, they won't be able to see our faces, just so you know. So if you're gesturing with your hands, they won't be able to see you on the recording.
Okay, perfect. So right now it's just
the screen. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So I call this Mysteries of Gaia, sacred sites hidden in plain view, connecting the ancient world. I want to, Dr. Karen, you've been to Mexico, right? Have you been to the? No, okay.
I have not. Well, I won the trip to Tulum, but refused to go because of the Jibby. Well, anyway, because of the mandates that I refused to do.
Totally understand. So what I'm showing is just a picture from Coba. It's one of the sites in near Tulum, actually. I was staying in Tulum. I'm sure that was the site. And I want you to look way in the distance, and you can see can you see my cursor? Or my
yes.
Okay. See those little things way out there in the jungle?
Yeah, they're kind of poking out.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And that's kind of what a lot of the ancient sites look like when they're in the jungle, covered by jungle. And that's what this is. It's obviously it's some type of man-made structure, and it's got trees all around it. It's overgrown. So I'm just going to show a few overgrown things. This is in Cambodia, Angkor Wat. And look how those tree roots have grown over this beautiful building. That's what a lot of them look like. Once they remove the tree roots, they were destroyed. So something to keep in mind, that these ancient sites, and I'm going to preface and say, we're told a lot of these sites are hundreds of years old or thousands of years old. I beg to differ. I think they're 20,000+ years old, maybe 26,000. Very old, not all of them, but certainly the big pyramids that we see. This is the largest pyramid on planet Earth, and it's in Bosnia. And you've heard me speak of this, Dr. Karen. It actually goes, this is the top. There was a castle on the top. There are remains of a castle.
What?
Yes. And see this incline, this incline goes all the way down.
Yeah.
There's a river way down here. If that is all part of the pyramid system, it goes way
Wow.
down there. It probably goes just as far down over here. And most, as anyone who's studied pyramids at all or been to Egypt, there is just as much below ground as there is above. Usually
That's
the
what I
temple.
heard.
Yep, the chambers. And I'm going to show some of that. I want to preface, in case I don't mention it when I talk about the tunnels in Bosnia, they are not under this pyramid. They have done testing that shows there are at least 7 layers of tunnels and chambers in this structure. This is called the Pyramid of the Sun. Although they are not able, when I start talking about the Ravne, they're way over here about a mile, the Ravne tunnels. And it's part of the political mess that Dr. Samir Osmanagic, who discovered these in 2005, has had to, in just the way he's had to be finesse, so to speak, through people to be able to do what he's doing. And part of it is that he's not able to dig directly into the side of the pyramid. So,
so wait a second. So are you saying that there is or isn't tunnels inside that?
There are tunnels inside this, and there's tunnels under the whole village. I've been in some way down here under the river.
Okay.
But the government has made this very challenging. So he is actually approaching the pyramid from over here, underground. There is work being done on the pyramids on the side, and I'll show that in a little bit. But as far as, I'm going to use the word allowing, and I'm not sure, and Dr. Samir doesn't want to go dig this whole thing up like they've done in Mexico. It's too much. It's massive. Look at these little houses over here.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Like I said, there was a castle up here on the, and I should say before I go any further, because I like to educate people, every pyramid on the planet that I've ever seen and that I know of is flat on the top, which I bet you didn't realize that, because most people don't.
Now I hear that there was a capstone that is removed, destroyed, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to me, because a pyramid is supposed to be a pyramid. It's supposed to come to a point.
Except, you're right, and I forget the shape. I think it's a rhombus. It is supposed to go to a point, and they don't. And I've seen, even in Egypt, they're flat on the top. If you do some digging, and they say the capstones are missing, but I don't know. All I know is that they're flat on the top. So I have
They don't look like it in the pictures. Are they old pictures?
Even Egypt does it, but if you look from a higher version, you can tell. It's very interesting. In Mexico, same thing. Mexico, there's chambers up there. Thailand,
wow.
Malaysia, all of them they're flat on the top. Well,
I just thought they were broken.
Well, this one actually, the castle is in very disrepair, but the Bosnian government, to keep Dr. Osmani Samir from building and doing anything up there, covered up overnight in the dark. They did some building up there to supposedly cover up the castle. And I'm sure there was an entrance that has been covered up, and now it can't be touched because it's a castle. It's protected under some something. Anyway, it's very political.
Wow.
I want to share something that I was blessed to get to do this past May. A woman named Julie Ryder, and I love that she's a female, has been discovering for 11 years. She's been working with megaliths up in Montana. And there are and I can't believe this to even say it, but think of Egypt as one site in Egypt. There's lots. Think of the Bosnian or the Egyptian pyramids in Giza in Egypt. That is one of Egypt's sites. There's Luxor, there's the Valley of the Kings. There's all kinds of sites in Egypt. Just in Montana, in 1,000 square, I'm going to get it wrong. Can't be miles. In a small area in Montana, there are 110 sites. Wow. So Giza Pyramids is one site in Egypt. There are over 110 that she has logged. I give this woman credit, and I have thousands of photos. And when I went to look through them, they're overwhelming to me. So I just picked a few favorites. This is Julie.
Oh, okay.
This is a structure, this shape. Does it look feminine to you? The middle one?
Looks like a grandma.
Grandma, yeah. And this is all over. I'm going to show a photo later in France, a very similar looking structure. These are called megaliths. They're tall rock structures, some natural, some natural and enhanced. That's what a lot of them call them, is enhanced. They were put there somehow by Mother Earth, but they have been somehow changed in the mix. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Oops. Well, I tried to move something around and it didn't work.
Well, and I just want to remind folks that if you're listening here on the podcast, you're like, what pictures? I'm not seeing pictures. Don't worry about that. We actually are going to post the YouTube video underneath the audio version, so you can see the video version if you'd like.
Thank you. So look at this structure. This is, Julie calls this a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's massive. The whole thing, and you can't see it in this photo. My photos just don't do it justice. But I want you to look right in there, Dr. Karen. Do you see something strange?
There's like a little statue of a man sitting down or something.
It is. Look at him right here.
Yep. He's
and
like
I've got a close-up of him.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Is that a petrified person? How big is that? Oh no, that's a really big person because the treetops right there. So yes. This is not our size. This is much bigger than the size of a human.
Good point. I hadn't realized that. That's right. And the crazy part, Julie has been back there dozens of times since the day she and I went. I'm the one that happened to see it. She has never seen it again. She let me name him. I named him Seated Man, which isn't a very good title. I think I should call him Commander or something. But yeah, Julie's had never seen him, and she's still never seen him. That was in May. She goes back all the time. It's right off a highway. She's never seen it again from that view. Isn't that
what? So what does that mean?
It means the lighting has to be perfect.
Oh.
I mean, it's very clear right here.
Yeah, very clear. It's a man.
Yeah, I have a really good camera that I travel with. It's just a little Canon, but it has a 40 times zoom, so I can zoom in, and that's how I have to find him. But I love to share this little guy with people because he's in this massive complex that you would never realize, he was just hiding in there. I don't know what. There we go. This is another one that Julie took us to, and that's actually Gregory Muscari.
There's Gregory.
I was with them in Montana for a few days, or a few weeks. But this is this is called a dolmen, Dr. Karen. I don't know if dolmens are not very well known around the world, but they're all over. I've seen them in France. They're scattered around Europe. Stonehenge was said to have been a dolmen in the past because it had a top on it.
Right.
And this is really tall. It's probably 30 feet up. This does not look like a natural stone to me. Does it to you?
Looks like a log, but it's not a log. It's made of stone.
Stone, yes. So, and the fact that this is balanced up here, these are all balanced in very specific ways. It's rather interesting. Here's another one. This is just one of the stone formations. Stones don't do this. See this up here?
Yeah, it's kind of like cut perfectly straight down and connected, like there's glue there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that it's like somebody stacked them. But it's just really big, like an Inukshuk, but just really big.
Yes, and it's probably 50 feet tall.
Wow.
Crazy. Here I wanted to show this over here looks kind of like that figurine I showed you earlier that I think of. I call her Mother Earth when I see her around the world. There's lots of feminine, just large mass looking, like older women, kind of with maybe a cape or something. But I want you to look right here. Do you see something kind of interesting in that area?
Yeah, it over there it does look like another person facing us, but the funny thing is like you can almost see there's two arms, like the one arm is like up and the other one looks like it's holding something, maybe even a baby or a basket.
Could be. This is him.
Okay.
Sting, and there he is again. I mean, this is not natural the way he's seated into this. It's just can't be natural. There's something really special about the Montana megaliths. And I should say when I was doing my research, when I went to see the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio last December. And I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and I had been there as a child and I wanted to go back. And when I went back and was doing some research, I read there were over 1 million ancient sites in the United States alone that most of them had been covered up, and there's 100,000 left. Isn't that
Whoa.
fascinating?
A
And
million down to 100,000? Oh my goodness.
well, and part of that is when, and think about it, practicality, and this happens all the time with sacred sites and other types of things where, a builder, in all honesty, buys a piece of land and then they start digging. Let's say they're putting an office building in and they find something that they know is not supposed to be dug up. Do they tell somebody and then donate the land back to charity, which is kind of what happens in a lot of these places? They, it's an awkward situation. So,
well, how do they even know there's a million? That's what I'm curious.
There was, I wondered the same thing when I read it. But when I think of all the sites that I've driven by in the United States, the mounds and the odd looking things, what did you just tell me before we started the call today? You were in Aruba. What did you think? You saw in the distance?
Yeah, so Aruba was pretty flat as an island, and we were on a kind of a hill and a bluff looking down, and I'm like, I said to the guide, I said, "What's that pyramid?" And he didn't say it was a pyramid. He says, "Oh yeah, you can hike up that, if you want to." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a pyramid, right? Like it looks, it's got grass on it, but it's a pyramid." I said to my husband, "It looks like a pyramid." He's like, "Yeah, it looks like a pyramid, right?" But the guy didn't say, "Oh, this is the Aruba pyramid." You know what I mean? But it was so freaky to us. It's like, wow, it's just sticking out of nowhere. Like no other mountains around, just kind of flat, and then boom, there's this pyramid.
Was it covered in vegetation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, not tall trees because they don't have a lot there, but it was just like green stuff. But there was a steps. There was steps. So I don't know whether they made them after, like recent. We didn't go there because there's a lot of steps. And it wasn't part of that tour. But maybe next time we'll do that one.
I should tell you there are well over 100 pyramids in China that they found years ago, and they've disguised, I'm saying disguised with tongue in cheek, with trees. So that's what they tend to do, is they plant trees on things, and that covers them up and hides them. So if you Google pyramids in China, you will be very surprised to see what you find. They're out there. So they're all over. They're on every continent, every country I think I've ever been in. I've seen at least one or two sacred sites. So let's, here's another. This is a great example of a dolmen, and that's probably 25, 30 feet high. That stone, there's too many of these stones balanced on the top in Montana to think it was an accident. Maybe one, okay, somehow a higher hill knocked something down. There's no hill above this.
And so how did it get there, right? Like it's not like rocks can grow that we know of, like a weed, right? That it just, sets on a rock and there's a baby rock and it grows into a papa rock. It doesn't happen. Not in our reality.
And no, and these are mega ton stones. I mean, they're massive.
So they're not just pebbles. But you know what? It just makes me think of all the things we did as kids when we would have, a bunch of stones to play with. We would stack them. We would like knock them over. We would, make different things. And like I said, I'm from Canada, so some of the symbols that we have are from the Inuit. So we have these Inuksuks, and I always was gravitated towards it because they make it look like a person, the stones. And then we actually have our own little mini stone thing outside that my husband just naturally, as a human, just wants to stack stones, So I'm thinking, okay, these are giant people, okay, that are stacking these stones for fun. Giant people.
So maybe something from our past, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in the Men in Black series, at the very end of each movie, spoiler alert, it's like you open a locker and there's just a bigger world, and we're just tiny people in that bigger world. So I think it's interesting how they depicted that. Like our whole world is just a marble game in an alien society.
Oh my goodness. I saw that movie 30 years ago when it first came out, but I don't remember.
Yeah, just right at the end. Yeah, and each of those, right at the end, it gives you a little like, bet you didn't know you were insignificant. Now this is precarious, this particular picture.
Isn't it?
Look at that.
And this is how many of them are, all balanced in really weird ways. South Africa is full of these. If you climb up the very steep mountains there are things like this up there. And it's just crazy. How did they get there? And why would they have spent their manpower doing something like this if it wasn't?
It's like an anti-gravity vortex creation or something. Because you can't have gravity, like normal gravity, and do this, like literally like a giant hand of God, like playing marbles, but with rocks. Very, very big rocks.
Yes. I don't even pretend to know.
I'm going to be on the lookout now because there's a lot of rocks where I am, and I just assume it's all natural, and I never even thought to look at it with a more discerning eye.
Yeah.
Although my husband's really good at that kind of stuff. He'll actually see, hey, this is weird, you know? And I just thought, somebody came in and just like cut it. Like I'm like, oh, somebody came to cut the rock because they needed a path here, but maybe they didn't cut it.
Never know. And this is not where I was normally say this, but I'm going to say it. I don't believe at all that the Egyptian pyramids stones were cut down in, I can't even think, I've been there. I can't even think of the name, but where they say Aswan, where they say they were cut down in Aswan, carried up the Nile. These stones are mega tons each, and there's over 1 million to form the Great Pyramid. Because the pyramid is not empty, it's full of stone. In Bosnia, it's the same thing. The quarries across the way from Bosnia, but something I'm going to share in a little bit is that they're concrete. The Bosnian pyramids are formed concrete, and it's proven. So some of these stones, you just wonder, and especially when we get to the section when I share about Peru in Saxon Woman, they formed these stones. They have to be. I'll share that in a minute.
Okay.
Here's another one. Crazy. That is not natural.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it's like, well, humans have a career called masonry, right? And they're very good at taking stones and they put them, make fences out of them, and they make it so that the stones fit in these little nooks and crannies if you're a good mason, of course. So this is what it looks like, except it's massive.
Yes. And why? It's not a wall.
Why would they do that? Like, what's the purpose? What does it mean?
Yep. Yes. What does it mean? So the energy in these places is usually very wonderful. And I always make sure to take time to stop and meditate and just enjoy it. This one looks to me like 2 white teeth.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And it's hard to tell. Back behind this are even more massive stones. It's just mind boggling, when you see these. And this one, what does that look like?
It looks like a child or a little girl or something.
Or maybe a bird with a long beak. Do you see it?
Oh, okay. I could see that one too. Yeah.
I've seen these in South Africa formations. I was with Michael Tellender and saw things very similar. I'm in the islands. I don't have a copy, all my photos with me, but very similar to this, basically like a 2-3 foot almost carvings they have all over South Africa. So who knows, but just fascinating.
Okay.
Very big. It was huge. This one, I don't know why I kept in, other than it's kind of got that same shape of a bear face, maybe. Okay, let's talk about Bosnia. Bosnia, I love to be an ambassador for Bosnia because when Samir Osmanagic, here's a picture of Samir. I first went in 2012. Samir is a Bosnian citizen. He left and his family moved to Houston, and they have a company in Houston. But his passion was in ancient sites, and Dr. Samir had actually been teaching Mayan history. In addition to his family business, that was his passion, to travel all over the world and look at temples and pyramids and different structures. So when he was in Dallas speaking, and he said there was a tour 3 weeks from when he spoke, he didn't announce this. There were 400 people standing room only. I'm in the back of the room, and I waited till everyone left so I could go up and talk to him. And told me about this tour. I said, I've got to come. I've just got to come. And it's one of those no questions. And he said, well, there's a small group coming out of Houston, mainly ladies, and, talk to this woman and you can come. So I did. Well, I want to show you, this is the largest pyramid on planet Earth right there.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? Totally disguised. You never know. But kind of like you said in Aruba, you knew it was a pyramid. And Samir saw this back in 2005 for the first time. He was in Bosnia doing some work, a survey, and he saw this structure and he knew it was a pyramid. He did spend a year researching, had scientists from all over the world come and do different testing to show the chambers. And I don't know all the equipment names. And I've been there when some of it was being done, but he had a lot of that done. And in 2006, it was on CNN. He was on CNN sharing this big revelation of the largest pyramids on Earth were in Bosnia. Oh, an Egyptologist had come to Egypt or to Bosnia for 3 weeks to stay and study and made a statement. Yes, they're bigger than our pyramids in Egypt. Well, that gentleman called back to Cairo and was told to come back the next day and never mention anything about it. Well, it was too late. He'd already lost his job by the time he got back. But I don't know if that's exactly true, but he did get fired. So
he got fired by the time he got back because he had said that on this show?
Well, I don't know if it was that week, but yes, he was let go because of that. And every scientist that was cited in the CNN show was told to never speak of this again, or they'd never have a job in the scientific community. And the show was never seen again. It was like it never happened.
Oh my gosh. Well, then we know it's something significant. Exactly. They don't want people to know about it. They don't want people to know that these are pyramids, and every time the mass media or mainstream media says don't look over here, now I want to look.
You and I are so much alike, because I said sign me up, I'm coming. I went. The most expensive flight I've ever had, not first class, to get to Sarajevo 3 weeks from that date for the solstice. But I just had to go. It was this burning desire. And what happens with those of us that are called to Bosnia, just like people that are called to you, Dr. Karen, in your group, your community, we are become ambassadors for this work. And so I feel it's a big part of my life and work to share this information with people. Here's the Pyramid of the Sun again. What Teotihuacan would look like under it, dwarfed. And Teotihuacan's huge.
Okay, where's Teotihuacan?
In Mexico, outside of Mexico City. So that's it underneath. I didn't read it, but I recognize it. I'm sure that's it. And this is what it would look like underneath the Bosnian pyramids, if it was, by dimension. And I don't have the Egyptian size. I had all those listed and I didn't share it. Here's different pyramid shapes that are found in Europe, mainly Bosnia. This one is the Pyramid of the Sun, Pyramid of the Moon. They are the two largest on planet Earth so far discovered. I've seen some other really big ones. One was in South Africa, actually, but I'm not gonna, it's not in my, certainly not in my financial opportunities to announce different pyramid systems around the world that I've seen. But this is Pyramid of Earth, and it's actually more of they actually call it the Temple of Mother Earth now. And it's more of a elongated crescent moon shape, which is rather interesting. But this is just showing the size of the Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia compared to Mexico, compared to Egypt. Pretty big difference.
Yeah. Wow.
So, cool comparison. This is the Pyramid of the Sun again from the backside. This is an experiment. And I slept the coldest night of my life, a whole group of volunteers. I was there volunteering in the tunnels. And one night, I spent 3 months there that summer in 2014 when I moved there. And we had a fire and we did a little picnic. There's a little restaurant up there now. There wasn't then. And we spent the night. It was the coldest I could ever, it was just freezing. Which is, Bosnia is cold, but it was summer. So it was kind of interesting how cold that ground was. But you can see distinct lines here. This is the sea, that's the side. And there's 9 feet, I didn't say, there's 9 feet of vegetation on the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun.
What do you mean?
Of dirt, soil, and growth.
Oh, so, okay. On top of whatever's underneath.
Yes. And that's because they're proven to be 26,000 or more years old. That's a lot of years to have a lot of vegetation dying and forming on top of it.
Oh, I see. So you think that's natural, not tried to cover it up, kind of thing?
I don't know. Actually,
I don't know. Okay.
I don't know. It's so big, it would be really, I do think some of these have been covered. How in the world would they cover it? A
It's so
flood
big.
might have done some of it. In Egypt, there's definite signs that there was a flood in Giza. But
Right, I heard that.
yeah,
Mm.
this is it from a distance, from the other side of the river. This is the most quaint, beautiful town. You feel like you're in Italy when you're in Bosnia. This is the pyramid of the moon, the second largest pyramid on the earth. And you can see the structure here, but it's not perfect because of the vegetation. This is actually a farm down here.
Okay.
There's farms
I
on the
would
top.
not have known that was a pyramid, but of course I'm just looking at the 2D, so
At the what?
I'm just looking at a flat, picture
Right.
as opposed to being physically there, but I would have been like, oh, that's a nice hill.
And you just never know. And that's true. You really have to go around things. I drive around them. Usually, I've been with people in Brazil specifically, and I've seen structures that I knew were man-made. They're perfectly circular, and you can't tell from a distance always, but I have a sense. I think this is part of my work on this lifetime. And I will say to people, I can remember a day specifically, but I've done it many times, where I say, there's not going to be a cathedral or a castle on the top of that little mound, but there's going to be a cross. And there always is. That's how it's like the churches claim that land.
Oh.
Interesting. And all over the world, you find interesting structures that are with churches, cathedrals, or castles, like in Bosnia, on top of them.
Wow, wow. And when it's a cross, does that automatically mean Christian?
Probably.
Okay,
In
okay.
Brazil,
Yeah.
it would.
Well,
In
now you
Brazil.
got me thinking because I'm looking out my window, right? And we see White-Faced Mountain. That looks like a pyramid. But I
Send me
never really thought of it as a pyramid. I'm just like, well, there's a rock slide on one side, and they've got a tour bus that goes up, and they have a tunnel in there that you can go up to the top, and the funny thing is, sorry for the aside, but I mean, to me, I'll have to look at it again, but it looks like a triangle, right? And the funny thing is, there's one guy. I don't know if you heard about this. So ski season, right? One guy gets lost. They can't find him. So they got the search and rescue out, right? He's gone. So I'm joking to my friends. I'm like, he went through a portal. He was found in California.
No.
Yeah, and it was like 2 days later or something, and I'm like, how did you get to California? And then the guy was, the funny thing is when he was found, he was still in a ski outfit, ski boots and everything, and he was kind of out of it, right? And I'm like, portal, right? And so they made some story about how he hitchhiked, all the way to California, and I'm like, okay, that makes no sense at all. First of all, why would he still be wearing his outfit, right, when he's there? But yeah, so there are some people that made some fun of it, and I think they might have taken them down, but there are some signs that are like, this way to California on White-Faced Mountain, and there's been a lot of sites of ETs, spaceships. I unfortunately have not seen them because I don't live close enough to there, but yeah, some of my friends have seen alien activity there. So there's something about White-Faced Mountain. It's the fifth highest mountain here.
Oh, really? Send me a picture. And what's funny when you said it's out your window, I remember after doing this presentation, I don't know if I was in Peru doing it or Brazil or wherever, South Africa. I've done it quite a bit around the world. Someone said, I knew that hill outside of my condo or whatever in California was a pyramid. And now, so here you've just said that with the portal. So maybe the guy ended up in that portal.
Right, right.
Portals in a little bit. I've got pictures of them in Peru, but that's fascinating. And there is a lot of ET type of activity around these structures. So who knows?
Okay, good to know.
On August 18th, in August, the sun is behind, and I've been there for the solstice several times, but the sun, see that structure,
That little white.
The shadow.
Yeah.
That shadow is the shadow of the pyramid of the sun.
Okay.
And for some reason, on August 18th, there's something to do with the sun. That's the pyramid of the moon, the second largest on planet Earth, is totally covered in shadow by the pyramid of the sun.
Mm.
This is all part of a lot of what happens. There's light shows. I could do a whole talk on light shows around the world, but all over the world, there are structures built, especially in Peru, you see them, to that on the solstice, they change. There's like a momentary little flash of light, and it's the moment of the solstice. It's crazy how the ancients knew these things that we don't know today how to do them.
Right, and how precise some of the architecture is that we cannot even reproduce today with all of our technology and AutoCAD and everything.
Right. It's crazy. Yes, exactly. This is Dr. Samir Osmani, showing the side of the pyramid. I mentioned the Pyramid of the Sun. He has been able to excavate with volunteers, and I've helped do this, excavate some of the vegetation. In this point, it's only like 3 or 4 feet or 2 feet. Here, 4 feet. But these are huge boulders. There's several layers of them, and they're stacked very specifically all over the side, and they're very strong energy. Here's volunteers. We've got some.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just different volunteers. They become ambassadors. Once you've gone, you want to share this with other people. But you can see these interesting stones that don't look, this does not look natural. I've got a close up of that here. They're beautifully, I've got another picture in the caves, the tunnels showing coming up, but they've got texture on the top. It's a beautiful surface. This is Dr. Joseph Davidovich. And he's actually holding a piece of concrete in his hand that he got from a sample from the Bosnian pyramids, the side that Samir sent out. They sent them all around the world to different labs to have them check, what is this material that the Bosnian pyramids are made of? And he said it was concrete. And the other labs wrote back and said, this is the hardest concrete we've ever seen. Where is it from? And concrete gets harder the older it is. And when told that it was concrete, when Samir announced concrete, he was totally discredited, because we know the Romans invented concrete 2,000 years ago. So this can't be concrete.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
credit for stuff that they don't necessarily deserve.
Wow.
But I just thought that was interesting. This is the Ravne tunnels. I mentioned the tunnel system underneath the ground that goes to the Bosnian pyramids. It is called Ravne as in a labyrinth. It's the Ravne labyrinth. And it's definitely a labyrinth. And I won't get into this. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I wanted to show a few pictures. It goes on and on and on. This is
and these are all like, obviously, none of these are new, right? Like these are not new tunnels that were made to go to the pyramid. These were there already.
Ancient. And the reason, as a volunteer, what I did that summer, I've done it several times, is we are helping to clear out debris, other stones, that some civilization in the past came and filled all of these in to keep people from going in them. A lot of it's a big cover up.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's a huge project. This is one of the tunnel systems, but it's really crazy because she's in this. There's water back there. She's filling water with the water from the Blue Lake underneath the pyramids. The Dr. Emoto, I'm going to talk about him in a minute. But it's like, how does this not come down on top of her? Like when we're in there, we have to wear hard hats. But it's like the surface tension is crazy how it holds the stone and rock. It's just sand and rock and debris, or not debris. This was found inside that tunnel systems in one of the big chambers. Think of a king-size bed. It's about that big, and it's actually in the shape of an egg, kind of. This is the point. Underneath it is a river. And the river flows in this direction where it's pointing. Now, we're talking stories down. It's not right below it. It's way below it. And this thing over here, they've done testing on it. It's got some type of egg shape right in this area inside of it. Crazy. And I was going to get crazier. Here I am. It is very strong energy. This is my first trip there in 2012. You sit around. That's what those benches are for, to sit around and put your hands on it or near it.
So they left it in place, but then built benches for you guys to experience.
Yes, because people can come in and see them. Yes. And you mentioned earlier the healing process, healing facility. This area now, this particular photo was in 2012, but I was there in 2018 for a summer for 3 months. And there's a whole healing complex that Dr. Samir has built up there.
Wow.
But This is fascinating. This is that same stone from the side.
Mhm.
It's ceramic, by the way. It's not stone, it's ceramic. And it is,
Ceramic?
yes, and it has a base and it's attached with some type of adhesive to the ground. It cannot be moved. It's attached to, this is all attached to keep it in place.
Huh. And yeah, and so stories down, there are the waters.
Yes, there are the waters pointing. This is at the one end. It's the points in the other direction. Yes, there are the waters. The river's flowing under it. Although the river, there is a lake that's a different body of water that you can access from this same level. I just cut this out, and it's funny. I just saw a picture from my 2018 photos of this same shape moved. They've moved it, but this is the texture that's on top of the pyramid of the sun. I showed you the moon. It's kind of it's probably, if water was there, there'd be like half-inch deep pools on it. It's textured, it's very textured.
It's almost like, like when we do pottery, or something where we put our hands in and we're shaping stuff into patterns.
That's a very good point. Yes, exactly. All kinds of things have been found in there. This is part of the Blue Lake. It's very sandy water. It is perfectly healthy to drink. I have drank it, and I want to. It's. Have you heard of Bovis? Most people don't know what that term is. Bovis scale.
No, I'm not that familiar with it, although I know my friend Ken Rolla went down there to do testing and things on the water, and to this day, I think he still buys water from there.
Yeah, I do. I carry a vial with me. Yes, it's wonderful. But Bovis is, I'm going to read this real quick. Vibrational quality or intensity of radiation of whatever is being measured in Bovis units. And I didn't self-correct the word Bovis when you can see the line under there, but they're units of vibrational quality, energy. And the average value for a home or healthy person is 6,500 Bovis units. Values below 6,500 units indicate a qualitative energetic deficiency. Values above 6,500 indicates a higher. Look at that number over here, Dr. Karen.
That says 40,000?
Yes.
40,000 Bovis. I want that machine. How does one get one of those to measure people?
Dowsing.
Oh.
It's a chart, and you douse with it.
Oh, Bovis scale biometer. Okay, so you can do anything, not just people and water?
Yes. But I've seen one of the chambers is 60,000. And
Wow.
they're not printing this if it hasn't been proven by several sources. It's not one person came in, it's several. There's actually, and I can't think of her name, but there's a dowsing expert that is well known around the world that I met the first time I was there and spent some time with her. And but they have a lot of people that do that type of thing to help with this. But just thought I would share that. And there's zero radiation. If there's a problem outside in the earth, you want to get in those tunnels. There's no cell phones, don't work in there. They're it's perfect air quality. The water, the air, there's no visible sign of ventilation, but there's cool air flowing. Constant temperature. They're crazy.
Yeah, like how does air get in there?
I don't know. I don't know.
It breathes itself.
It breathes. Yes. We kind of feel like it's kind of alive down there.
Yeah.
It's very present. The last time I was there in 2018, or 19, I spent almost every day meditating in those tunnels. I would go deep back into the farthest chambers and turn out the lights and meditate. It's freezing. I'd have to wear blankets, but it was powerful connection to Mother Earth. The set, you can hear her breathing. It's like, and there's water that drips off the ceilings. I don't, a whole nother, this could be a whole day or 2 days.
Did you swim in it, or are you allowed not to?
No, this chamber they discovered later. Look how perfect that chamber is. That is not just a random body of water. That is not natural.
That's channeled, obviously. That looks like a channel. Somebody cut a channel in it.
Yes.
The water is being transported.
Right. But and they've tried to say this is all natural. None of this is built. It's crazy. Here's a piece of it. Dr. Emoto. The water was sent off to him. I don't know the year. It must have been prior to 2012. and it says he observed the molecular structure. For anyone who doesn't know who he is, he's no longer with us, but he was known for many things, including when he froze water that had different words attached to the containers. They would freeze in either a beautiful shape or a not so beautiful shape. And do you want to add anything to that, Dr. Karen?
Yeah, we know it, a lot of people heard about him first through the movie What the Bleep, do we know? And in fact, the Ascension 3 jewelry that I sell, we actually sent it to some of his students who are in Switzerland. So what they did was I asked God what I should tell them. The first piece we sent them was a necklace, an Ascension 3 necklace, and they had, I said, well, make an intention and look at the water for 9 seconds. She goes, do you mean 9 hours? Because everybody else that sends stuff to her, it's in the hours. I said, God said 9 seconds. So she's like, okay, so she does it. She looks at the necklace and then sends, she says, okay, charge this water with healing, right? And then they separate like the frozen distilled, the distilled water. They have the control, and then they have the one she did, and then they freeze them right away, and then they look under the microscope, and she did find beautiful structures. And then the funny thing is this that you're showing us here, the Bosnian pyramid water, what's fascinating is and I'll have to show you that, it very much looks like, it reminds me of the 13 chakra bracelet that we sent her. Now this one I actually infused myself into, like, I actually did it as opposed to using a piece of equipment that has memorized the healing qualities to do it. So I actually infused it myself, and I thought, well, I have to prove that me doing it is as good as the machine doing it. So I sent her that, and I said, okay, no intention this time. You're just going to put the 13 chakra bracelet around water, and let me know how it goes. And I believe that was longer than 9 seconds, 30 seconds it might have been. So this picture was the first one she sent me. Very, very similar. So so the 13 chakra bracelet causes and it was this interesting spiraling, beautiful image. And I was like, well, I don't know which chakra that is, but it was fascinating. It looks very similar. It's amazing.
Well, in this one, I'm looking at thinking this has gotten in. When I took a photo of it, I'm down underground in tunnels with a flash. It's perfect. It's not, it looks like it's deformed, but it's not. It was beautiful. So,
well, and I think the crystals we think of as shrouded, like it's 3D, but we think of it this way, but I actually think it actually built, like I think the crystal, that's why some of it's blurry, because it's actually 3D in a spiral.
I think
that's my guess.
Total sense. Wow. Beautiful. These are just a couple artifacts. There were many found, but I worked in the
wow. That looks like a gua sha tool.
This one, there are shaped stones all over the place. I have some, but they're in Dallas, that are in this shape. They're like formed. So if they did some type of contour, it wasn't obviously concrete they put in here, but they've done something with ceramics. These were used for some type of form, unknown. But
yeah, it looks like a Chinese cleaver. Like they're molding a Chinese cleaver. That's what that one on the left looks like to me.
It does. Crazy. Okay, now we're gonna talk about elongated.
That's gonna be fun.
And this
I'm an Indiana Jones fan, by the way, and we're gonna watch his latest movie on Netflix tonight.
Oh, I should do the same. I've lived in Peru several times over the years, spending the whole COVID year and a half I was there, but I'd never gotten to a place called Nazca. And I finally got to Nazca and hired a guide, and he told me about a ceramic shop that had elongated skulls. And there were 3 of them here. This is in the village of Nazca. I cannot divulge the place. It was this, I thought if this guy's not legit, I'm a little scared, because I was driving down a very small side street in a small Peruvian village with a man I didn't know very well. And we walk in this door and it's not marked, but this was there. And as a medical doctor, you probably noticed the eyes look a little larger than normal, the eye sockets. Oh, yeah, Dr. Karen, you're mute.
Wow, sorry about that. I was like, wow. Yeah, definitely. They're bigger, and even the nose seems a little bigger too. And yes, the human skulls generally don't look like that.
That's what I've been told. And this I hear is not
Whoa.
like
Wow. That's a
totally.
lot of brain.
This had been in his family for generations.
Oh.
And there are 200 of them I just had several views, but I thought as an MD you would appreciate the shape of it. It's not natural. I'm holding it. You can see how big it is. It was so hot. It was so hot, but very excited to get to hold it. And that's
amazing.
Supposedly the neck, the hole where we would call a neck, is in a different place than our skull. Does that sound right? Another MD looked at this. A couple of them actually have seen it.
For Magnus. I mean, it clearly looks like they have it on TV where the skull goes further back than the neck. Because some people would expect the hole to be further back, but for balance, it probably wouldn't be. So they might have more tissue up front to balance that.
Okay.
I don't know.
In Nazca, I was on my way to Paracas, which is where 200 of these are in a museum.
200 in a museum. 200.
They're known. They're in a museum. They've been seen by people. They're on the internet. If you look deep, you can find them. So when I was there, Brian Forrester is a man that's known for his research in this field and others. He works with he lives in Peru. He lives in Paracas. And I reached out to Brian and he was kind enough to reply. And we had a conversation back and forth. And he told me the museum where these were hidden. No one would tell me where they were. I couldn't find the place, but he told me. And then when I got there, it was closed. And I was in touch with Brian and he said, sadly, he suspected closed for indefinitely.
Oh.
There's hundreds of these ancient, huge, massive skulls that are not humanoid and closed. So just lots of cover-ups going on.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. Yes. Just that so much out there is being hidden and kept away from the public for who knows why. We don't know exactly. Suspicions. But I want to talk about Inca walls. And I say Inca, I've been going to Peru since 2011, one of my favorite countries. I go any chance I can. And the Inca were there 500 years ago, and they are credited with almost all of the building that's gone on in Peru. The Inca get credit. Oh, that was built by the Inca. Well, when you see, there's over 1,000 sacred sites in Peru now. Most of them have not been exposed, but I've seen this, and it's massive. And you drive by and you go, well, there's a pyramid or there's a structure. There's a half exposed one. It's very obvious. So very interesting that that it's just being hidden. So, well, first of all, it's the funding to do the research, and they've got big enough places that are being exposed. But Inca walls are not just in Peru, and they're not 500 years old. They're much older. So I'm going to show a few things. This is Ollantaytambo, and it's a very famous wall. If you walk up a lot of terraces to get there, and no one knows exactly what these things are. They could be part of timekeepers because they have some similar things as far as knowing the time, how long the shadows are, how deep. And people say, oh, they were used to hold them and move them, but most of them don't have these. So, but look at the shape of these, Dr. Karen. This is not, see, even this, these are the ones I said I think were molded somehow or formed, not just carved. Each one of these weighs probably 4 tons, 3 tons. They're massive. It's a huge wall. They're not just little, they're huge. So they're just perfectly put together like a puzzle, and they've withstood earthquakes and all types of weather, and they're pretty good shape. So
what's that rust color? What is that? Lichen. Is that just clay?
I think it's lichen.
Lichen?
It's like a mold or it's it's like a growth.
Okay, so I thought maybe it was like some sort of metal sulfur or something or other.
No, but you see that on a lot of these walls around the world. So you do wonder if it's not something else. But I've been told, I think it's called lichen. Here's another wall. This one I'm just going to use. I didn't have any fabulous ones with me to locate, but see how these are formed together. Very meticulously, they're cut. You can see these corners. That's not easy to do. We layers, and masonry today. You said it's an art. It certainly is an art.
It's an art, yeah. But
This
that's
is where,
super precise.
yes, all of it's crazy. I've got some more pictures. It's crazy. But this is where somebody's come in and fixed this wall or built it higher for some reason. That's what the Inca did.
Well, that's what the Inca did.
Basically, they've done it better in some places, but this is perfectly precision. The stuff you see that the Inca did does not look, it's not precise.
Because the Inca weren't around back then.
That's right. This is much, much older.
Much older. Now, okay, look at that. The angle on the right-hand side, it looks like it's so straight cut, like a laser cut it.
You're right, it does. Let's just blow that up and
That
see
is
it.
crazy. Like it just looks like, yeah, or it's molded, right? Like it's like somebody just poured it in, but obviously they're individual stones, so it wasn't poured in as a single structure. But that's in fact, it looks like two triangles you got there in the shadow.
Right, it does. And the shadow, we're going to talk about sacred guardians if we have time, and that reminds me of sacred guardian. Here's another. Look how precise this is.
Wow.
And a lot of times I didn't find one, but I was just in Machu Picchu in March. There at Machu Picchu, there's things that have like a snake formed in them. There's actually pictures. It's art. One, I know there's a hummingbird in one, and there's a wheel in another one. I've got photos. I just didn't have them with me. But you can see this is once again Peru, precise, but not. This is Inca up here.
Yeah, not precise. Yeah. Yeah, that's more like our modern day masonry.
Right, exactly. And it's thick. You can see it's several feet deep, but even this has been put back. It's not nearly as good as what we saw. So it's probably been rebuilt. Oh.
Yeah, definitely see the difference.
Look how perfectly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and they don't know, these are very common, these holes, and they're not straight. They're definitely, there's a shape name. It's a four-sided shape, and it's wider at the bottom than the top. But these are even more than that. You can see this has got an extra cut in it.
Yep.
I don't know if they were, they say, oh, they were meant for icons, and that's where they would put, or food stores or whatever. We don't know. A lot of stuff is guessing. This is at Machu Picchu, and I was there, as I said, in March. And this stone is ancient, and it's massive. It's huge. These are huge, but this is really big.
I can't really tell because there's no person beside it. So
right, yeah, this is a person over here, but you can't tell. I would say a person's probably this tall.
Okay.
So it was really big, and you're right. It's not a great picture in that respect, but it's a big U shape that there's these things stick out on both sides. It's hard to get pictures. There weren't too many people there this year. This is another look at these walls. See that same precision here? This is in Bosnia, Darsan, up in a mountaintop, not even near the pyramids. This is what Darsan looks like from a distance.
Okay.
This is the stone. Isn't that fascinating?
Wow.
Look at that. Precision, ancient stones. From a distance, these walls are falling apart. They look pretty precise here, but there's a lot of damage there. And here, this is a different structure than this. You can see this is a different stone than this. This is more of a, I don't know what it is. I can't say it's concrete, but you can see there's been damage here.
Yep.
Supposedly 26,000 years old. Look at how they stick these little things. And it's fascinating to walk around and see how these are made.
Wow.
Here's another one. This is Cambodia. Now, they sure traveled a lot back then.
I guess so.
Now, the Cambodians don't have those other things, those, what I said.
Yeah, they almost look like they remind me of the things where people have fake rock climbing walls and they put their foot on that little ledge to push up, but they're not real, like they're plastic or whatever. So that's what they remind. And then these ones are more like, hey, I'm going to put a stick in there to get up.
Which, you know what? I never thought of that. It's possible because the Inca, and I say that again with hyphens around
quotes,
it.
Right.
They had a very interesting, and I don't have photos of it in this presentation, interesting stairs that they used, and they were like a stone coming out here, like sticking straight out. I can't describe them, but kind of like you just said, it would be if there was a step here and a step here and a step here, just with a stone just sticking straight out. Scary. They're real scary because they're just stones. But anyway, but that was Cambodia. Here's
Yeah, see, what I would do is if I wanted to get up there, I would just take some bamboo and stick it in the hole, right? Bamboo's really strong, right? Step on the bamboo and then take it out and put it on the next level and, climb up the wall that way.
I had never heard that, but that makes total sense.
I don't know what else the holes would be for.
Wait, if we can see, look at this is one big stone right here. I don't know if it's broken here or if that's I've got some more coming. This is a wall, or this is a flooring, and these little things are all over, Dr. Karen.
Okay, well, that wouldn't make sense unless it was on the side, so that's on the floor, huh?
They are all over. They're I don't think I have any more. This I just left there because this is typical of over here, especially something that I'm going to show in Peru. Some of the very precisely cut structures that they created that all work with the sun and the light and the we don't know what they are, but there's this one's very worn, very old. This is
Ooh.
in Java. Yes, this was interesting. And I don't know these I believe these different things are somehow formed, the reliefs all over Asia, Hindu and Buddhist in Java and ain't the oldest stuff in Cambodia, in Thailand, Malaysia. But it looks to me like they are put back together. They're made and then put together as blocks, like they could be moved almost.
Right. So they have the artistry purposefully. It's not just a structure to hold a wall together. There's art in there, and it looks like it's put together like bricks with those,
like formed in one place and put together bricks. Yes. This is amazing in Thailand, and I can't think this was the original capital of Thailand. It starts with an A, and I can't think of the name right now. But I went in this chamber, and it's a sound chamber. It's amazing. Look at the wall down here. I was so excited because I found one of the ancient walls. You don't see this very often in, at least this is my first experience in Thailand seeing them. There it is. Look at this one. It's an upside down T shape. It's crazy. Totally different material. This is the stairs, which I went down these, and it was like there was a wall here. I'm standing at eye level looking at a wall, and then I looked down and it's open about a few feet at the bottom, and I had to crawl under. Very similar to the Great Pyramid of Egypt. Anyone that's been there, you have to crawl under some stuff, and they're all very dense. It's not hollow, but this was the sound chamber. And I did see there was some real interesting light that happened up in there.
So did you sing in there?
I did. I just made note tones. It was powerful. I did some recordings, not of my singing because I don't do that. But my name may be Adele, but I'm not a singer. But it was this little chamber. I mean, it's probably 2.5 feet by 2.5 feet. It's small. It's free, but it's small. Beautiful paintings that ancient. You can see how old this was. What were these ancient buildings? I don't know. I just know that I'm fascinated by them. But a lot of it to do with sound. In Cambodia at Angkor Wat, there's lots of individual buildings, and they're very close to each other. And we played with sound there, and it was definitely, they were all different. So there was something to do with sound and frequency. And we know from a healing standpoint, there's a lot to do with all of that. And we just had our sound health. Wasn't it called sound health?
Yes, and the sound health portal. So about frequency and sound, and I can imagine that potentially, people could be healed, in these chambers.
Exactly. Yes.
Healing chambers.
That makes total sense. Yes. This is Java, and I put this to remind me. This is at Bora Do, and this is another one of them. I mean, look at this, the construction of that. That's just not easy to do because they all have to be assembled.
Right.
Now, this is one of my favorite things. I'm in the U.S. Virgin Islands right now. I'm very close to Virgin Gorda, which I first went to Virgin Gorda in the early 80s. And this is a very famous scene. You may have seen this, Dr. Karen. It's a used a lot of times in advertisements. It's
Yeah, it looks really familiar, like it looks like an upside down pyramid.
yes, exactly. And these things are actually shaped like an egg,
Oh,
and
an
the
egg.
things come down, and they're made of the material. And this is not a great picture. It's really hard to get photos of these things because they're so big, and by the time you get to them, you can't get a photo of the top of them. And that's the case with this one. This is, they always say this is in Virgin Gorda. It's called the Baths, and it's a very famous site. And when you come to, it's probably the BVI's most popular site. But when you come there, and these are people down there, you can see how huge these stones are.
Mhm.
And this is just the bottom of them. They go up, 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 up. They're massive.
And they actually look like eggs.
Yes, they're like up, not quite, but more with a point. So I
Okay.
believe they're marking ley lines, or they're pointing down. It's a vortex or something. And supposedly the material that these egg shapes, that's what I call them, massive eggs, are made of is not indigenous to this part of the world. They are not
Oh,
found here. And I want to say it's limestone, but I don't want to misquote.
but it is stone, not concrete.
Definitely, I don't know.
Oh, we don't
Could
know.
don't know. I don't know. They um when I
So
was
this is in the Virgin Islands,
this is the
this
British
egg.
Virgin Islands, yes. It's
British
probably
Virgin Islands. Okay.
5 miles from where I am right now in St. John, but it's you can't. It's another country, and it's tough to get there right now. Or it was during COVID. I was here and I couldn't get over. This one's actually in South Africa. Similar pointed thing. It's different, but it's kind of similar. This is in Peru. This is at Napa Iglesia. It's Iglesia being church. And
Okay.
this is one of, I mentioned there were some things I showed you in, I think it was Cambodia, structures. And this is, they actually put dynamite to this on purpose to try to
What?
destroy. Yes. A
They tried
lot
to
of
destroy it?
a lot of times they're trying to destroy these sites. They're ancient. This is not 500 years old. It's much older, and it does all kinds of stuff. It's they're portals.
Yeah, it
They're
looks like it's some sort of, because obviously you can't, right now, I don't see an entrance to go in anything.
there's no physical entrance, Dr.
No,
Q.
oh, right, true. No.
Portal. And I'm going to say another portal in here. This is the big egg-shaped thing at Napa Iglesia. And I wouldn't have, if I hadn't remembered what I'd seen in the BVI as well as in Cambodia, I wouldn't have realized that's what this was. These are probably orbs. I'm not sure, but kind of an interesting photo. This is the
Mhm.
base of it. This was my guide and his
Oh, okay.
girlfriend. But here, look, there's the portal. Look at that right there. Carved in the bottom of this stone. It's laser perfect. Look at
Oh
the
my gosh, that's like Star Trek.
Star Trek. And it's a portal.
Totally.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's like a foot deep or maybe 6, 8 inches deep. And
Oh, yeah. Well, it completely looks like a doorway.
yes,
Yeah, so
totally.
you're like standing there and like beam me up, Scotty.
Yep, yep, exactly. Crazy.
Wow.
So I had
Oh, well, I just, not that long ago, watched the whole Troll Hunter series, and they had a special crystal that they would draw the portal, the door, and then it would light up, and then they could enter. Like everything, all the rock would fall away. They would enter, and then a few seconds later, it would all be put back, so the other people couldn't get in.
oh my gosh, fascinating.
Yeah, probably some intel drops there in that show. Everything's
This
an intel drop.
this is this is another place. This is at Zoneques in also in Peru near Saxi Woman, which I'll show pictures of coming up. I hope. I think I've got some, but you can see these are carved. This is Samir again, and this is Valery Yubarov from Russia, and he
Mhm.
builds pyramids in Russia. And I was traveling.
What do you mean he built them?
They're in somewhere in Siberia. And this trip, they invited me to come up and see them, but I just couldn't make it happen. So
Oh, okay.
these guys are best buddies, and they knew I was fascinated by all this, and very sweet. So this is another one of those, and this is in
Wow.
Cambodia, about 2 hours north of Angkor Wat. That's
Okay.
it.
Well, that is clearly an egg-looking shape.
Yes, yes, there's more of them. And
And
look
they're
at
balanced, and I'm like, it's not balanced on much. How is
they're
it
not.
staying upright?
They
Right?
put all these religious icons around it. Oh, I didn't show, I had some with Buddhas under it. They're crazy. It's like, how is this? These things are like 60, 80 feet
Yeah, like
tall.
how is it balanced perfectly and not falling over and hitting whatever? That is amazing. What is that black looking thing on the left?
I
Looks like
don't
a
know. There's a lot of
garbage
man
chute.
cat stuff. It's some type of, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
There's one of these, there's actually and I don't have, it's so close, it's hard to get pictures of these because
Yeah.
it's not like you're looking back from a long distance, but there were stairs that went up to another structure, like a temple on top of these things that
Mm.
I didn't do. I ended up deciding not to go. Okay, how are we doing on time? We've been talking a
Well,
while.
I think we probably should end here, Adele, but you've given us so much to think about now in terms of getting to the place about, how, so when people have this pull to go to sacred sites, they have this pull to go to sacred sites. So do you believe that that's like the energy of the sacred sites? Like they somehow intuitively know that that's for their highest and greatest good to be in that vortex or that energy?
Yes.
Mm.
And I think for those who have no interest in going, like you, for example, you would go, but you're not, it's not a passion. For me, I didn't have a choice. And so I
Mm.
think a lot of people are connected in different ways. And I think for me, I've never said this publicly, but I'm going to say it. I think I was one of the original builders of some of these sites in past life.
Mm.
Or Maria, who knows? And to say that out loud, I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm just too attached to them, too connected. And as I said, in this lifetime, I don't know exactly what they were for. I just know they're very special and that there's generally very strong energy above or below them. I didn't mention Bosnia. They did testing and the energy from the Pyramid of the Sun, I think it's a 9-meter area, which is pretty big, 9 yards, is a circle of energy that goes up. And it gets
Mm.
stronger as it goes up than as it comes down.
And they did that using that scale, or
No, they did this
no?
with electronic equipment. I was
Oh,
there.
okay, okay,
I've
okay.
done it several times. Some type of electronic. No, that was done. A lot of the things have real tools used. It's not always dowsing and
Interesting.
but I mean, it was crazy. You could hear the noise, so there's something going on energetically. So I think a lot of these spots are marking sacred spots below the earth. Like I said, they're just as special below as they are above. And
Mm.
who are called, like for me, I didn't have a choice. I've been being called to these places actually probably since I was a very young child. My family, that was, my parents were adventurous. I came into a family that liked to travel. And those who go, I've taken people and shown them and they're like, oh, that's interesting, kind of like off my to-do list. Just,
Right, right.
I've done that with things. All right, I didn't really care about this football stadium, but I had to come see it because it's the biggest one.
Football
Never need to
stadium.
see it again. But for me, I go to these places and it's like in Montana, it's like, we've got to sit down and meditate. We've got to sit and feel the earth. And I usually take my shoes off. I often have crystals with me or different stones. So I think those that are called to visit them have a purpose for that. And when the first trip to Bosnia, the first time I stayed there for a while, I like to go for months at a time. I met some beautiful people and they actually gave me a gift and it was a verbal one. And they said that my job was kind of to be like Johnny Appleseed, to go and collect energy and to leave energy. So I feel like the hundreds of sacred sites I've explored around the world in this lifetime, but most of them in the last 20 years, I have been receiving energy and then giving energy. So almost like an exchange. That may mean more to you in a different way than it does me, but just I think many people have that feeling. And it's really, sometimes I don't need to stop at all. It's just like, okay, I've done this one and my job's done and I don't even know what it was. Or I'll drive by one and it's like, should I go? And it's like, nope, you've done enough. So, we just have to trust. And that's where the soul guidance or the divine muscle testing, those come into play just to kind of, am I supposed to do anything? We just can ask and be guided and trust.
That's neat. And I think one of the things we're learning from you in this podcast is like look around us. Like pay attention because, instead of going, well, one of these days I'm going to go with Adele on a trip and see all these great sights, there could be something close by that, like I said, like I don't know that it's true, but I'm looking at Whiteface Mountain going, wait a second, now that I've spoken to Adele, it kind of sort of looks like a pyramid. And boy, I did hear about all the ET activity. And boy, that guy did disappear, didn't he, for 2 days and found in California. Like, how'd he get there? Right? Like all these things were all disjunct, like, and then now it's like, well, actually, that could make a story. And so we could potentially benefit from or have this exchange you're talking about with sacred sites that are literally close to us, and we don't necessarily, not to say don't go to Bosnia, but we don't necessarily have to go to Egypt or have to go to Bosnia, like you said, in Montana, which is very accessible to those of us in the United States. 1,000 like megaliths, and you could feel the energy. Oh my gosh.
Yes, exactly. And every national park, I believe, has these type of structures there. It's a big stone, like on this island of St. John, there are definite pyramids and structures are everywhere, but there's these massive stones, there's megaliths, and just to touch those. So if all over the world, I know one time I was driving through Nevada and there were these strange stones everywhere. It's like, what is this here in the middle of nowhere? So just kind of just go outside of your comfort zone a little bit and trust and be open-hearted and open-minded. Just that there really very likely are sacred sites in your own backyard. They're all over Texas, everywhere.
Wow.
Don't know it until you stop and think about it or realize, and a lot of them have been destroyed. So it may be just the remains, but the sacred sites are there. So.
That is amazing. And well, and I'm, almost curious, like, how do they get destroyed? They're halfway up a mountain. Like, literally, you'd have to have some sort of bomber, right? To like try to kill some of this stuff. And when did they do that? And nobody noticed, right? It was like before our time. Anyway, so there's all these questions. Now, Adele, can you share with us your website and where to find you and find out more about what you do and some of the tours that you may be doing in the future?
Yes, happily. Thank you. My website is Adele. Yep, that's my email. Adele at adelegood.com is my email. My website is adelegood.com. And I have my trips I'm working on. I had planned, and because of COVID, I've kind of stopped things a little bit. But my favorite trips to do are Bosnia and Peru and Bolivia. Bolivia's amazing. All of them are amazing. So those are 3 places. If you're interested, anyone interested, just let me know, and I'll get with you as I finalize some things for next year. My Facebook is where I post a lot of my activities and my travels and sometimes my hypothesis about things. And that's Adele Good. I think it's Adele R Good.
R Good, yes. And Adele is spelled Adele.
Yes.
And then Good is usual spelling. And then the Facebook, there's an R between the Adele and the Good. That's how people can find you.
And yeah, I work with the joy codes. We didn't talk about the joy codes, but that's my passion. And that's a combination of body, mind, spirit, heart, and connection, community. And it's based on a stone I found in Bolivia. And the Carol Cryon from the stage said the word joy codes years ago. I was in the States, 2017. And I went up to him and I said, and I knew this is the rune of joy, the ancient language of rune of joy, Joy, Wenjo. And I said, and I've traveled with he and Monica some, and I asked him, I said, you use the word joy codes. What was that about? And he winked and said, that was for you, Adele. So I was getting a gift from Cryon. I can't remember if he was saying it as Cryon or Lee Carroll, but anyway, so I put it into a program, and that's my coaching program.
Oh, fantastic. So you can find out more at adelegood.com and follow me on Facebook. Adele, it's been really wonderful having you on the show. One of these days, I honestly am not big fan of international travel at the moment with the U.S. elections looming in the next, year or so. But we'll maybe shift and change the world for the better so we can all feel free to travel and see sites and connect with other communities, learn about all of our other human brothers and sisters all over the world like you have done. It's so wonderful. And you've been really inspiring. And definitely, I'm a lot less scared now.
There's nothing to be afraid of, Dr. Karen, at all. The angels, we're also protected. The angels along the way show up to help us. So
That's perfect. Tell my husband. Um,
I will.
he's the protector of the family, right? So anyway,
All right.
yeah, thank you so much, Adele. And everyone go to adelegood.com and check out what she has there, including the joy codes and also her Facebook page, which is Adele Are Good. You can go there and yeah, well, you never know. Maybe some of the Sets of Soul Light Warrior tribe and I will, join you on a future journey. That would be super, super fun, given all your expertise and history. And definitely Bosnia's calling me. I can feel it.
Don't
Especially
I
after
get
hearing
it?
from you and what Kenrilla said, and I was like, yeah, there's definitely some interest there. So, yeah, thank you so much, and we want to thank our audience for tuning in as well. Until next time, we'll see you back on Light Warrior Radio. Bye for now, everyone.